survive.
Hello everyone, Smugpug here. In this video, I'll be going over what are, in my opinion, the best legends to pair up with Caustic in Apex Legends. When I play Apex, one of the things I do when queuing up is try to take into consideration the composition of our squad, and how well our abilities could work together, and what our group attacks might be. Now, I don't always do this, of course. Sometimes you really just want to play who you want to play, or you're really just trying to power through some annoying challenge. I'm sure you know the ones I'm talking about. So I've made a list of legends who, when paired with Caustic, play well to each other's strength and should have solid team synergy. And later in the video, I'll detail the most promising squad combinations. Certainly, you are more than welcome to comment with your own thoughts and experiences with the different character matchups. And if you do find the video to be helpful, consider giving it a like. It would be greatly appreciated. Anyways, let's get into it. In order to keep things organized, I'm going to categorize the characters by the roles given to them in game. That being offensive, defensive, support, and recon. Give some examples of how they could interact with Caustic, if at all. Starting off with offensive. Now, as someone who calls himself a Caustic main, I actually don't dislike Wraith. While her tactical may only benefit herself, her ult can be absolutely massive for helping out the squad, if they decide to do so. Or they're capable of pulling off some sneaky pathway thing. The phase portals essentially act as a two-way door, which make it perfect for leaving a trap ambush. Next, we have Bangalore. Bangalore's smoke cans are surprisingly thick and do a great job of concealing you, or covering up traps. The smoke and the gas pair up really well together for this, making it even more difficult to spot gas traps. I feel like I don't hear this being talked about enough. A Nox grenade might also work installing enemies who are caught in the path of her artillery strike too. Horizon. Horizon is an easy fit in my opinion. The gravity lift gives everyone, or even every trap, some much needed verticality, but it's her ult, the singularity gravity pull, that really solidifies it for me. This alone combines so well with Caustic as an easy target for her to throw your Nox grenade, sucking in players in range of it. Fuse, probably not your first pick, and admittedly he wouldn't be mine either, but Fuse's proficiency with launching grenades is actually what makes him appealing in this case. Did you know you can actually stick arc stars to Nox traps? This will both set off the trap and of course add extra damage. Likewise, Fuse's cluster bomb ability can also stick to traps for a similar effect, making them more dangerous, all while giving an easier target for a Fuse to aim for. Really cool in my opinion. Now let's go on to defensive. For Gibby, you have the option of making his dome much less enticing to push by adding traps to it. The dome will obviously make it more difficult for traps to be destroyed, and works as additional cover during your revive. Might especially come in handy if combined with his airstrike ult. Now, Watson. Watson and Caustic have a pretty interesting dynamic, as they can both serve as multiple layers to a good defense setup. Placing traps and fences near each other to make indoor sections a little more chaotic. Ironically, these two things can also interfere with each other. The traps placed in line with the fence itself will be triggered, and Watson is not actually allowed to build in a space where a trap has been placed. So you certainly need to be aware and considerate of each other if you're gonna rock these two. With Rampart, you have another pretty easy fit here. Her barrier ability, unlike Caustic's traps, are much more obviously meant to be stood behind, so they pair well together, as that's basically creating small placeable walls. In my previous trap guide video, I brought up using your traps as extension of cover you may be using out in the open. The same applies for barriers. You can easily trap around them if you're both caught out in the open. Or if Rampart has already set up their defenses, the gas traps work as fine additions to covering any holes or possible weak points in their fortification. Let's move on to Lifeline. Makes a great addition to most squads in my opinion. Pair her health bot with the presence of traps to repel or distract enemies, and as well to just not leave you and your teammates completely exposed while healing. Also, her care package ult could potentially come in handy if you're looking for a spot to lay traps in the open. Similarly with Loba, you can have your traps placed around while using her black market as extra cover, or to just simply secure where it might be placed. You just have to be careful as the gas damage will also affect the black market. Upon some reconsideration, I would say that the Recon character class as a whole is either neutral or positive leaning when paired up to most of the other characters. They tend to serve more so as counters for characters like Caustic. They usually spoil the unpredictability that would come from setting up a nice trap ambush. The one exception I could make is probably for Pathfinder. Their zipline is just really good, if it can be used appropriately to scale up to otherwise awkward or those really hard to reach locations. And then of course adding traps to the end of said zipline could work out quite nicely. And now what about the rest of them? Mad Maggie, Ash, Revenant, Octane, Mirage? Well, these characters in my opinion either aren't very synergistic with Caustic, or just won't have much of a meaningful impact when paired with his abilities. I'm not saying that any of these characters are bad, or that you should avoid being in a squad with them, but that you may not be able to play to each other's particular strengths. In my opinion, a couple of the best combinations would be Caustic plus Watson plus Rampart for that serious defensive team. Probably a pretty obvious matchup here. These characters could very nicely and chaotically hold down indoor locations, especially if it were to be going down in Final Ring. They could practically build their own fortress if the situation presents itself. You also have Bangalore plus Caustic plus Horizon for that offensive focused team. Horizon providing the verticality, Bangalore the cover for you, and the traps serving as a distraction. These three have a lot of potential purely with combining their ults together too. You could create a smoky, gassy singularity pool before hitting them with that artillery. Another interesting trio that might be worth experimenting with is Caustic plus Pathfinder plus Rampart, or Watson, I don't know. The positional advantage Path's zipline can provide, combined with some solid defenders to lock down wherever you end up, sounds like such a great pairing to me. As long as that Pathfinder is willing to not, perhaps, fling themselves into danger, you know? Now, let me be clear. You could argue that legend abilities won't outshine raw skill, but there's no shame in understanding synergistic opportunities and potential strategies you can pull off together as a team to help turn a fight. And to just have a bit of fun. Thanks for watching. Remember to hit the like button and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And until next time, I'll catch y'all later.